All right, here we go. So tonight for the calibration call, what I'm gonna be going over is simply the stage 1 through 4 cheat sheet for your whole sales process. So inside the Deal Balls project, one of the biggest issues I've had in my real estate career is what we call cold, warm, and hot leads. Um, I can't tell you another concept that confused me more than cold, warm, and hot leads whenever I started making sales calls. And the issue with cold, warm, and hot leads is there's no definite filtering mechanism because you're like, you talk to somebody, what determines if they're cold? What determines if they're warm? What determines if they're hot? And what ended up happening to me was I ended up spending a lot of time on the phone with tire kickers because I wanted a deal so bad. And what this causes is for us to get frustrated. It causes us to ultimately quit. It causes us to look for shiny objects to go elsewhere and do those things. However, in training my 12-person VA team for our wholesale operation and training sales over and over again, what I was able to identify was 8 conversation types that happens in every real estate business. And I was just on a call with a guy, and I was explaining to him that it doesn't matter what your exit strategy is. Wholesaling is just an exit strategy. Building your portfolio is just an exit strategy. Flipping is just an exit strategy, and the list goes on and on and on. However, what's not spoken about and what's not talked about out there in the world is the ability to consistently generate deals. And your ability to do this determines how much money you make and your success in this game. All right. And it's the game of real estate. All right. It's the game of life. Building my portfolio, what I did is a lot of agent outreach. We did a lot of direct mail. And towards the end, I started working with wholesalers, and I started to realize that I was paying these guys 20, 30K pops and then flipping a property to only make about the same. Whenever I could have made double if I would have just had the ability, had the systems and operations to consistently generate these off-market opportunities. Same thing with agents, agents, good or bad, you still have to pay them a fee. I'm not against paying anybody a fee, so don't get me wrong when I say that. However, I'm sure you're going to agree, if you have the choice to pay somebody a fee or not pay them the fee, you're going to choose not to pay them a fee and keep more of the money for yourself. That way you can roll it back into your operation, your business, your portfolio, your wealth. And tonight, what I'm gonna be going over is a 4-step process, and I'm gonna break down each stage, each step, so you understand the actual sales process that every deal goes through. It doesn't matter who generated the deal. It doesn't matter if Guru A generated, Guru B generated. This deal still goes through the same process, and we're going to break it down in a 4-step process so you understand what's happening when you're on the phone with them and what you need to do next. No more, I think this person is a hot lead. I think this person is a warm lead. Oh, I'm going to follow up with this person in 7 days. No, I might miss out on the deal. I'm going to follow up with this person in 3 days. No, I'm going to follow up with them in 45 days and 4 hours and 46 seconds, right? That's what we all go through. If you didn't do that, I'm guessing you haven't made enough calls, because when you get hungry enough, your mind starts playing tricks on you. And it's just like, what if I do this? Is there a trick? And the answer is there isn't a trick. The trick is consistency. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to put in a system in your business so being consistent is easy and it happens organically, meaning it happens whether you show up or not. All right, so let's dive in here and get to work. All right, so here's a cheat sheet that I put together, and I'm just going to break this down. We have pieces of the sales script in here that we use, and then also we have the actual ranking of it. All right. So stage 1, communications. In communications, the first step to any deal, the first step to making money on any type of business is identifying how to get in contact with that lead. There is nothing more important than having a correct phone number or a correct email address. Even a correct mailing address is extremely important in the process of generating consistent deals. Now, once you identify those three things, now you can follow up with that person until they either pass away or they sell the property or sell the business, sell the commercial property, whatever that is you're generating. It doesn't matter what business you're in, this principle remains true. All right, so again, let's go ahead and type this out here. I'm gonna mess this up for y'all. All right, phone number, email address, mailing address. And if you wanted to add outreach like door knocking in there, well, the actual physical address, that would become just as important, right? You see, once you identify this, now the money's on the follow-up. However, everybody gets discouraged because they have to do this process. And I don't think it's the fact that you actually get discouraged. I think it's the fact that you don't realize and you don't just acknowledge that this is part of the sales process. Instead, we start thinking things like, it's the data. Let me get better data. The data is the issue. The data isn't the issue. It's all the same data. All right. The way data is sold is they simply pull a big giant list, the data company, the people who are selling you data. All right. Name them. It's all the same. PropStream, Batch Leads, Privy, it's all the same. They're pulling it from another party. They're third-party data aggregators. That's literally their business model. And they turn around and sell you the same data over and over and over again. And they end up charging you 10 to 12 cents a skip trace to give you 3 to 6 phone numbers. In the Deal Boss Project, we show you how to go get this for 3 cents, and it gives you way more phone numbers and way more possibilities and just data points in general, meaning your county list, meaning all those pain points that are already identified by the county. We give those to you so you don't have to guess. And yeah, you might say, well, hey, Eric, PropStream and all these other people do it too. Sorta. I bet you they don't tell you how many properties they own. I bet you they don't tell you when's the last time they bought a property. I'm just saying, we identify buyers also when we pull that list. All right. And it's easy. I'm going to show you how to do it. In stage 1, what type of conversation are we going to have? Now, tonight, I'm going to go through some phraseology is what we called it in air traffic control. And let me position this correctly. In air traffic, when I was an air traffic controller, meaning like I'm the guy talking to like 20 planes in the sky and trying to make all 20 planes land on one runway. Well, we just didn't talk to airplanes. You don't just talk to pilots. Instead, you actually say things a certain way. And the reason you say things a certain way is because communication isn't what you say. All right, listen to me. Communication is not what you say. Communication is what the other person understands. And because of that, we have phraseology in air traffic because we don't want people just cowboying it up. We don't want people just saying whatever it is and all of a sudden a pilot understand it differently and do the wrong thing and it causes a issue. All right, we don't want to do that. So therefore, we use phraseology that's written in this book, and we followed it to a T. And if you don't use that phraseology, you get in trouble because communication is extremely important. Now, the reason I say that is because whether you've been on the phone for 10 years or this is your first day on the phone, making sales, prospecting, generating deals, you don't know what to say all the time. And instead, you divert to how you communicate in your everyday language. And when you do that, you lose sales. You lose money. You don't convert. But what I'm going to show you today on the stages 1, 2, and 3, and 4 is the sales process and what phraseology you can use in each stage because you're trying to accomplish something different. Now, I will never tell you that there's a one call close script. And the reason I would never tell you that is because that is BS. There's no such thing as a one call close script. If anyone tells you differently, tell them that you want them to prove it, and then go give them a list to call that's never been talked to before. I'm not talking about properties that are listed on the MLS. That's not a one call close script. All right. When you call the people that are listed on the MLS to sell, they have already been verified as sellers. That's not a one call close script. They've already talked to somebody that got their property listed on the MLS. When you call a for sale by owner, it's still not a one call close script. That for sale by owner has already been talked to by Zillow or whatever platform they use to list their property. They have already been positioned to think in a way where they want to sell their property. Are you getting this? Like, understand that there is no such thing as one call close script. In sales, there is no such thing as you talk to the person the first time and they buy from you or they sell the thing. In some way or form, they have always been nurtured. Now, that nurture doesn't have to come from you actually making the call and talking to them all 7, 13, 21 times, whatever fallacy of a number you want to put on that as far as how many times they get to be talked to in order to close. All right. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is understand that everybody is not a seller, and that is okay. Your job in generating consistent deal flow is to build a pipeline of correct phone numbers, correct contacts. That way you can consistently follow up with them. And whenever they're ready to move, you're there waiting on. That's your goal. It's called rapport building. All right. Something you will not hear me say also is rapport talking about their cats and dogs. All right. That is not building rapport. The simplest way to build rapport in real estate is positioning yourself as a professional that does this for a living. It's the same way as going to a doctor. All right, when you go to a doctor, the doctor doesn't have to sit here and ask you about your cats and dogs and your kids and your family and all this other stuff. Instead, their title, that DR right behind their name, and you walking through the door that says doctor office or whatever that is rapport. The doctor instantly built rapport with you because you have been socially trained. You've been indoctrinated to understand that that doctor has a bunch of schooling behind them. They have experience, and a bunch of other people have signed off and given them a license to do their job. Therefore, you should trust them. Therefore, they automatically have rapport with you, right? You getting this? Now, how does this equate to real estate? Well, that's the reason people are always thinking, well, do I have to get my real estate license? I don't know. Do you want to be held down by the brokerage that you work for? When I get on the phone with the seller, I have way more rapport than a lot of real estate agents because I own properties. I have flipped properties. I have sold a lot of properties. And because of that, I can share stories. I can talk in a way that positions me as the expert. And therefore, if they want to talk with someone to solve their problem, they will spend time to talk with me because I have been positioned that way. And that's instant rapport. The issue is you get on the phone and you stumble and you don't say what you need to say. Or when you do say what you need to say, you talk to a bunch of people who are not sellers and they don't want to talk to you in the first place. And then you get discouraged and then you start using the wrong tonality. And tonality is king. How you go up and down in your voice, even your body language, all of this stuff matters. And I'm constantly working on mine, constantly. And when you consistently work on these skills, you start to make more money. And then you become more confident and everything gets easier. Think success overnight, right? You see these people all of a sudden out of the blue, like they're so popular. They've been doing all this stuff. And it's not because they just showed up and started. No, it's because they put in the reps and they practiced. They looked at the little things. So let's dive back in here and talk about stage one. All right. So I went through that whole spiel because I want you to understand how important stage one is. Now, you can pay to skip stage one. Well, how do you do that? Well, you can pay for ads, and then they're literally calling you. You can pay direct mail. They're calling you. You can pay per lead, where another company has done these steps and they're handing you the correct phone number and contact information. So you can skip stage one. But is that what you want to do? So when we look at the script for stage one, you want to trigger a lot of curiosity. All right. You don't want to just blow through the intro and spit everything out really, really quick. You want to drag it out. You even want to stumble. You want to act like you need help. You want to act like you're unsure. So I'm gonna talk about tonality. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to show you that the script is only framework, and you can't expect to be successful if someone just hands you this one call close script, because again, it doesn't exist, and also there isn't magic words. It's magic communication. So whenever you communicate something in a way that the other person hears it the way you want them to hear it, now you start winning. So if I was just to call you right now and I was like, hey, I was wondering if you could possibly help me. I'm not really sure if I got the right number for Jen. I wouldn't be surprised if you received a couple of these calls. You probably wouldn't be interested in selling your property at 123 Main Street, right? Like if I did that, like what did you hear? Most likely, if you're listening to this call, like you didn't hear anything. It just, right? It was too fast. There's no tonality. There was nothing. But then if I call and I let it ring, they answer. I let them say hi. Then I go, hey, I was wondering if you could possibly help me. I'm not really sure if this is the number for Jen. Is this Jen? Oh, hey, Jen. This is just Eric, by the way. I would be surprised if you received a couple of these calls like this, but the reason I was calling, you probably wouldn't be interested in selling your property over on 123 Main Street, would you? And if I had another person to interact, obviously I would stop and let them say what they wanted to say. But the point that I'm making right now is this is cold calling. All right. And the best thing you can do is keep them on the phone, because you're trying to get 10 seconds to get another 10 seconds to get another 10 seconds to actually have a conversation. And each one of these, if you blow through it really quick, you're going to lose the seller, and they're going to be gone. They're just going to hang up. They're going to say they're not interested. They're going to cut you off. They're going to interrupt you, whatever that is. But whenever you stumble and you position yourself as needing their help, you elevate their positioning, meaning they are in the position to be able to help you. Most people are inherently nice. Therefore, they'll probably try to help you. But it's only if you use the right tonality. All right, hopefully you're getting that. All right, and this is just cold calling. Keep in mind, though, we don't have to cold call. In steps 3 and 4, I'm going to show you what it looks like to be a setter and a closer, and the difference in the script, because it's completely different. We skip these stages. All right. Now, in the Bullseye marketing system, the thing that we teach in the Deal Boss project, we have set ratings. And in stage 1, it's really simple. If you get the wrong number, you mark it as wrong, and the system automatically cycles to the next number. if you mark it as dead, because you're going to get this is going to happen, guys. And if you use multi-line dialers, if you use text blasting and all this other stuff, it's really, really, really hard to track this stuff and make sure that whenever you skip trace that contact, whenever you receive those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 phone numbers, that you actually call every one of them. Because most data providers have roughly around an 80 to an 85% hit rate, meaning you're going to be able to reach them on that phone number list. However, for the other 15%, guess what that is? That's your direct mail list, right? I want y'all to hear me because I just dropped a big nugget. If you use this system and you're rolling through and you're filtering out these contacts and you go through all of the numbers that you skip trace, guess what? Nobody else was able to get a hold of them either, because it's all the same data. And because of that, what we do inside the Deal Boss project is we automatically create a direct mail list for you, and it's called Exhausted. And the reason it's called Exhausted is because then you have a niche direct mail list. So instead of it costing you a bunch of money to just blast direct mail and mailers out, now you have a system where you know that, hey, I wasn't able to contact these people, or your VA, ideally you have a virtual assistant work stage 1 for you, and you would never do this, but maybe you're not in the position to do that. So you have to do this in the beginning. And with this list automatically growing, now you start to have a direct mail list where you're reaching people that no one else is reaching. Hopefully you're getting that. That's huge, huge. All right. Another big thing that I want to point out is whenever I was training my team, I would do call calibrations, and it was really hard for me to correct someone who hasn't had a lot of conversations yet. And even the ones who had a lot of conversations, sometimes it's just not their fault that they get hung up on, or the person doesn't want to talk to them. It doesn't matter who you are. You can call a person on Thursday and they can be the rudest, meanest, evilest person who ever walked the earth, but you can call them on Friday and I don't know what happens, but all of a sudden they're like an angel. Right? So what happens and how do you handle that situation? Well, the way we handle it is there's a status called human connected. You just mark it as human connected, and it's going to automatically cycle that phone number, that contact, back into your operation. And it's going to reach out to them again. It's going to load them back up into your dialer, and you can move on. It's not a lot of thought process here. All right. Hopefully you are seeing this, like how easy this is. All right. Now in stage two, we call this least aware. And the reason we call this least aware is because our goal is to find motivated sellers. I want y'all to understand this. Time creates all problems and it solves all problems. So think about that. I know there's some irony there, right? But I want you to really think about that. Statistically, anybody who buys a primary residence will move within 5 to 7 years. Statistically, like the average family moves and sells a home, goes to another one every 5 to 7 years. If that is true, well, there's your time. Question is, can you follow up with them long enough for them to be in that window where they sell, right? Not to mention all the pain points that happen, because where we make money, I don't know why Facebook keeps disconnecting. Sorry, streaming issues. All right, I'm new to this. But where we make money in real estate is identifying life events. All right, that's where we make money. So life events, think about divorce. Think about births. Think about deaths. Think about job changes. Think about natural disasters. Those are major life events that most people aren't prepared for. And because they're not prepared for it, they need us. All right. I want to make sure that your mindset is right on this, because wholesaling for the longest time I thought was beneath me. And the reason I thought it was beneath me is because every wholesaler I talked to, I did not like. All right. I'm just being real. I didn't like them because they came off so sleazy. And I was just like, I would never do that. Like, I'm a real estate investor. All right. I buy properties to make beautiful, or I buy properties to make beautiful and put good people in them so they rent them and I become a landlord, right? Like that is my model. Wholesaling, like sleazy, right? But then I understood something. Real estate agents cannot solve majority of the problems that people have. Now, they can solve that 5 to 7 year window where people just want to sell their house just because. Sure, they can solve that. But they can't solve problems that need speed. And a lot of times they can't solve problems that need capital. And because of that, that's where we come in. True and real estate investors who can solve problems. And if you can do that, you can be very, very successful in the game of real estate investing, because it is a game. All right. Don't get confused with wholesaling and buying, hold, and flipping. Those are exit strategies. The game is identifying problems and solving those problems. Okay. That's the game. You getting this? All right. So let's jump in here and go back to stage 2. The reason I went down that spill and that road is because least aware is those people who just haven't had any events, and that's okay. This is building our pipeline. All right, your pipeline will continue to stack, and as it stacks, your deal flow will start to increase, because stage 2 contacts will become stage 3, and so on. And that's when you start to make money in this game. Whether you're buying for your own portfolio, flipping, or wholesaling, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, least aware, this is what you would normally call cold. All right. Cold contacts. To me, again, if you was on here in the beginning, I told you that the biggest thing that confused me whenever we started wholesaling and going direct to seller, because that's actually what we're doing. We're actually going direct to seller. That's the only difference. All right. I'm still in the game, whether I reach out to a real estate agent, whether I look at the MLS, whether I, whatever other ways you want to generate deals. Okay. The difference is direct to seller. Now I have to understand what is a cold, warm, and hot lead. And that confused me. And not only did it confuse me, but I couldn't train my team on it. And that's what was really bad, because I'm sitting there with a VA, and I tried Americans. I tried, Philippines. I've tried people from Egypt. Like I tried a lot. It was all the same. They had the same issues, even skill level. All right. You can sit here and you can talk about skill level all day. Like, oh, Eric, you just need to hire somebody with more skill. No, you have the same problems. You do. And that's the reason we created the Bullseye marketing system, because in the least aware phase, we identified that overall, there's only 8 conversations that happen every day in real estate. There's only 8. And I'm going to show you those 8. All right, so let's get started. One of the first ones is, it's not you, it's me. And we made these fun. All right. If you don't know me, I do have like a weird sense of humor. I like making funny jokes, and just, sometimes they're funny and majority of the time they're not, but that's okay, because I like to smile and laugh. If that's not you, fine. Call these names silly. That's fine with me, but they work. All right. That's the only thing that I want to communicate with you. They work. It's not you, it's me. These are the ultimate tire kickers. This is like if you called me and asked me if I want to sell my property and I haven't had a life event or anything. It's just like, nah, like, I'm good, dude. Like, leave me alone. All right. Put me on it's not you, it's me list. And the system is going to automatically follow up with those people 90 days. It's going to automatically send SMS, automatically send RVMs and emails, and automatically roll them into your dialer in 90 days. And therefore, you're never going to miss that opportunity. Okay. the conversations are very specific. All right. When you start to get reps, you're going to start to identify these conversations. So, for instance, dreamer. And let's roll down right here. It's easier for me to explain. I'm going to go in order right here. So, let's go back. I'm going to start with the first one. New bullseye. New bullseye is effectively it's on ice. So, meaning there's no automatic automation going out. It's not going to roll into your dialer or anything. Just the bare minimum. You identified the correct phone number. And because you identified the correct phone number, now you're filling your stage 2 pipeline, but maybe your bandwidth isn't able to continue pumping them out because every day when you show up, your dialer is full, your SMS is blasting, your team is exhausted, and you just need some breathing room to focus on those higher quality leads. And if that's the case, you just start filling up your new bullseye pipeline and then add them to your pipeline whenever you start to get more bandwidth. Okay, that's what that's for. That's happened to us several times because you turn this thing on and it's hard to turn off. All right, it really is. It's hard to turn off. Temperature discovery. Temperature discovery is a 2-day follow-up because you wasn't able to have a conversation to actually give them a rating. All right, this is extremely important to understand because until you get a certain skill level, and even when you do get a certain skill level, sometimes people just won't talk to you, and that is okay. Instead, don't even think about it. Don't spend 5 minutes trying to figure out when to follow up with them. Instead, you mark it as temperature discovery. The system will automatically follow up with them in 2 days, and they're going to show up in your dialer. They're going to get an automatic SMS, RVM if you're into that kind of thing, email, etc., and then you move on. All right. Now, these first two, this is not a conversation type. All right. These are just stages that we put into the system so it makes it easier for entrepreneurs like me and you to train your team and also train yourself to stick to the sales process because this is a sales process. All right. Now, it's not you, it's me. This is the first conversation. Again, super cold lead. They're unmotivated. They're not going to sell. 90-day follow-up, just cycling in. You'll end up getting a lot of these, a lot of them, but that's okay. All right. Shapeshifter. Shapeshifters are funny. I remember whenever we came up with this, we couldn't identify what kept happening whenever we talked to people who we could have swore they were a deal. But they had one thing in common. They were all trying to solve their own problems, and the pain just wasn't good enough yet. And what I mean by that is a shapeshifter is, think of like a for sale by owner. All right. If you ever worked for sale by owner leads, those are the worst. They're the worst conversations you can have as far as negotiation and getting a contract out. Now, great conversation on the front end of the conversation. All right. Like it goes great. They want to sell, but they're not going to let you get a penny. They're not going to let you make any money. They're cheap. And how do I know they're cheap? Because they chose to do all the work instead of just paying a real estate agent 6% to list it for them and where they didn't have to touch it. Yeah, think about that. So I know they're cheap. And because I know they're cheap, when you call them, you have a certain conversation, and it's really hard to get them over that obstacle that it's okay for someone else to win. They don't have that win-win mentality, and also they're trying to solve it all for themselves so they get the most amount of money, which is okay. There's a lot of money to be made in shapeshifters. There is. All right, the 60-day follow-up, that's just a baseline. You can absolutely follow up with them sooner by moving them in other stages. However, in most situations, they have something going on and they're waiting on something, right? They have 2 or 3 rentals, and like tired landlords might be this way, where they have 2 or 3 rentals going on, and each one of them has something going on with them. However, it's had the same tenant for 9 years, and the only reason they picked up the phone and talked to you is because the hot water heater just went out. And maybe they're tired of that. So now you get to talk to them a little bit, right? And you start to have a conversation and like, hey, you want this to continue, whatever that is, you start to future pace. And then you start to come to this understanding that even if you was able to get them to accept an offer, it would have to be a way overpriced offer. Like they're just not going to do it. And they've been stuck in this for a long time. You'll start to ask them probing and clarifying questions like, hey, have you ever thought about selling before? And they're like, oh yeah, like I talked to so many people. Like I had a guy offer me 125,000 like 2 months ago. And I was like, oh, why didn't you take that? Like what happened? They're like, I'll just keep it. Like it's fine. It's making me, $50 a month right now. Like I'm fine. Right? Have you ever had these conversations? I know you have if you made phone calls, So shapeshifters. Again, you can absolutely move them down the pipeline if your bandwidth is good enough where you can follow up with them sooner. However, if your bandwidth is not, you just keep them as shifter and you're going to touch them automatically every 60 days. If you want to follow them up sooner than 60 days, you just mark a task, move on. Super easy, right? Let's go back and we're going to go to the next one, dreamer. Dreamer and fisherman, these are the most popular conversations you're going to have in real estate. All right. Dreamer. Oh my gosh. These people, like freaking dreamers, man. You call them and, you pull up the property. You're all excited because, the initial part of the conversation starts out great. They're like, yeah, I'll sell. Like, I've been wanting to. You identify some motivation. You identify some pain. You start future pacing a little bit. And then you get deep into the conversation. So by now you're like 7 minutes into this conversation and you're ready to start closing, right? You think you're doing so freaking well. And then all of a sudden the number drops and they want $500,000 for this dump that's in the middle of nowhere. And you're just like, what? And, you'll kind of like reflect back on yourself and be like, is it me? Is it my lack of closing ability? But then you go back through and you do a call review and you'll start to hit and you're like, no, like I probed, like I clarified, I did this. They checked the boxes, right? Because in sales, there is a process. Like there's a step-by-step process that you take every call down and you're asking clarifying questions to find that motivation, to find that pain point. And when you do that, you end up getting to the offer, and the offers always last. If it ever comes up first and you don't have enough information to actually make a educated offer, you're doing something wrong. Okay. So with the dreamers, they're really funny and they really irritate me because you'll, again, be 7 minutes into the call, start to position yourself to make an offer, to start getting a written contract out. And now all of a sudden the price comes out and it's completely like haywire. So now you start to price anchor back, you start to pull them down, you start to ask them, well, how'd you come up with that number, all this other stuff, cliche stuff, right? Because you gotta make sense of the number. Like that's part of it. You gotta make sense of the number. So as you try to make sense of their number, well, now you find out that they just love to freaking talk, right? And you should have asked a better question at the beginning of the call to figure out that this is something they do quite often, and they just have fun with people calling them, asking about the properties. Again, when you get more experienced and you have more reps, you can start to identify the dreamers sooner by asking really good disqualifying questions, right? Up front. That way they don't waste 10 minutes of your life thinking that you got a deal, okay? Because they're all about an offer. Right? They'll tell you a number, and because they told you a number, your mouth starts watering, you start to get commission breath, and you're like, I'm about to get a deal. And nope, you're not going to get a deal that nobody's going to buy. So that's not the way it works. So again, we got dreamer. All right. Dreamer, unrealistic price. All right. They don't have true pain. And that's the key, guys. All right. I know I try to share a funny relationship to this because this is a pain in my existence. But whenever you talk to dreamers, the key is, do they have realistic pain? And I'll drop another side note on this too. I wasn't planning on doing this, but anyway, when you start talking with these guys, a lot of times creative offers will start to come up in the back of your mind. You're like, oh, well, maybe I'll just, drop a creative offer and get closer to their price. But the issue isn't money. The issue is they're just not motivated. All right, they're not. And then you start going down these roads of creative and getting the top dollar and all this other stuff, and there's no pain. All right, you got to stick to the pain. All right, so keep that in mind. We go deeper in that inside the project. But then there's fishermen. All right, fishermen, just make me an offer. All right, they don't have any true motivation. Again, the issue is no pain. Fishermen's are very short and direct. They want you to make an offer without giving you any information. Normally, you can identify these super quick. Normally, like in the first 3 minutes of the conversation, you should be able to identify a fisherman. Now, fishermen's entertain them. There's a lot of money to be made here. However, if you have a conversation and you disqualify, and they're not moving down the sales process, then you need to mark them as a fisherman and move on. Don't waste your time. All right? Mark them, follow up with them in 60 days, and say, see you. Because you don't want to get discouraged. Time is money. All right? The same talk that I just had with you is the exact same talk you will have with your team and prospecting. So hopefully everything I just explained to you as the entrepreneur don't do, because that is not the best use of your time. However, it is required. You have to do this stuff, right? You have to have these conversations. If you're not doing this stuff, you're not making money in real estate. You're not, right? And if you are, let me know. I would love to know how. All right. So you got to have conversations with bad leads and good leads. You do. And again, with the bullseye marketing method, we're showing you how to easily identify what's happening and move on. Now, there is more to this. Remember, I keep talking about pain. You have to learn the sales process to disqualify, and there's nothing more important than that. And the reason you do that is because you have to do that before you position them to stage 3 and you push them into your warmer leads pipeline. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into stage 3. All right, stage 3. The goal here is to build trust. They don't know, like, or trust you. That is the goal. The second goal is to identify deeper pain, deeper motivation, and then position them and prepare for the offer. So in stage 1, 2, very simple, right? It's a short conversation. It's not a lot of time being spent at all. All right. Your conversation should last anywhere between 3 minutes and maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes is probably pushing it. You should be able to get a lot of disqualification questions out way before 10 minutes. In stage 3, this is where we go a little deeper in the rapport building phase, where, again, we're not talking about their cats and dogs and all that other stuff. We're talking about them. We're letting them explain to us what their motivation and pain is, so we can actually do our job, which is solve problems. With stage 3, there should not be a person in here that is not a seller. However, every seller is not ready for an offer. All right, this is extremely important for you to understand. Now, I'm not telling you not to make an offer. I'm telling you to understand that not every seller is ready for an offer. So in stage 3, again, super simple follow-up. There's 3 conversation types. 50 Shades of Gray, exact same conversation. It's just how quick do you want to follow up? Because these are deals. All right, these are deals. Do you want to follow up every 10 days or 3 days? Now, I want to talk about deal stalking and retail for a second. Deal stalking, I want you to think about agent outreach. I want you to think about wholesaler outreach. I want you to think about anything that is actually listed on the MLS or up under contract already. Literally deal stock. All right. You're putting them in there. You're catching the information that you need. These are people who want to sell. And ideally, you have already been positioned to actually make an offer in stage 4. And because you made an offer, you identified that they are just not ready yet, and you need to wait a little bit so you can throw them back into your deal stocking stage and allow your lead manager to do the nurturing process until they're ready to move forward. All right. Wholesalers. Gotta love wholesalers locking stuff up at an unrealistic price and giving us all a bad name. If that's you out there, please stop. Uh, but wholesalers, locking stuff up at unrealistic prices, a lot of money to be made there. A lot of money to be made there if you have good intent, meaning you can actually help that seller. So whenever somebody gets you a deal and you tell the wholesaler, hey, like this thing is just like, I don't know what you was thinking, which happens a lot. Um, you can throw them in deal stocking and literally, I would identify when the contract's going to expire and I would make a task. And I would also try to work with the wholesaler and try to guide them in going back and renegotiating it for something that'll actually work. But a lot of times these guys, they just know everything and they're really smart. All right. Aren't we all? We're just all really smart, But my point is, there's still money to be made there and you're not doing anything wrong because whenever I tell this strategy to somebody, a lot of times they're like, man, you're going to go around them. I'm not going around them. All right. So don't misunderstand me for what I'm telling you right now. You're not cutting anybody out of the deal. You're firing someone who can't perform. There is a difference. All right. We don't do DEI around here. Okay. Like you're firing somebody who can't perform. And because of that, you're actually helping the person who's in need, which is the seller. Because if the seller actually needs to sell and they need their problem solved and you can actually do it, you are the one who has the higher integrity, not the person who's just trying to get a payday. I have done a bunch of deals where I've only made $500. I've done deals where I made $0 just to help the seller. Okay. And I've actually lost money on some of them just to help the seller because we have them locked up. We're moving down escrow and we didn't run our numbers right. We didn't do something. And I had an option, either cancel the contract or move forward with the buyer who came in lower than what I was expecting. And most of the time we come in lower, right? We just, hey, move it because this needs to happen. And in my opinion, that's the best way to run your operation and you should run it that way. And because of other people that don't run it that way, well, that's the reason we have this pipeline called deal stocking, because we're in the business of serving and helping sellers who are actually in need. All right. Next, you have retail. Retail is golden. All right. Retail is amazing because these are leads that are not listed on the MLS. They're not up on a contract, but you have talked with them. You have tried to present an offer, but they're just stuck at their price. But their price is actually a realistic price. Like it's actually a decent number. It's just there's no spread there for you. And because of that, you need to follow up with them because they're going to stick at that number and maybe they end up getting their number. Maybe they end up listening on MLS. Maybe you position this and you do a novation. Gold. Absolutely gold. All right. Retail, think novation. Think novation, and you can do some creative deals in retail too, for sure. But retails are really good for novations. They're really good. All right. And that's just a 30-day cycle automatic. Just think every time I tell you about the automatic follow-up, it is automatic. You can absolutely follow up with them sooner, guys. Don't like hold me to this. I'm not telling you that you only follow up with 30 days. All right. I'm saying that you will never miss a follow-up because if you follow the system, it absolutely works. And then you have 50 Shades of Gray. Now, 50 Shades of Gray, oh, these people are a glutton for punishment. They love pain. They love to just think foreclosures. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many foreclosures we've done in 50 Shades of Gray 3-day follow-up. Like just foreclosure after foreclosure after foreclosure. And foreclosures, if you ever worked foreclosures, these are people who I want to choose my words wisely. Again, I don't want you to misunderstand me. Most of the time, These are people who aren't responsible. They can't do simple things like pay their bills on time. Um, and then they blame other people. Now, I'm not saying that's all cases. Again, there are a lot of people, some people who end up getting in bad situations because of those life events, who end up going in foreclosures. But the difference between those people that I just named, the people who like unfortunate versus a lot of foreclosures, um, are these people are actually going to have a conversation with you way sooner than most. All right, most foreclosers, they get into this victim mentality, right? And actually, I got a good illustration of this that'll help you guys a lot. It's the was it 5 stages of grief or denial? And let me show y'all this. Yeah. So what happens in stage two? Again, they're normal. Maybe they're in denial, but either way, they're not ready to move forward. And this is life pains that I'm explaining, right? Think foreclosures. All right. Then something's happening. They get angry. They get angry at the world. We all do. They start holding on to everything. They have both their needs and their wants in both hands, and they want both of them, and they're not letting go of either one of them. But what happens, think 50 Shades of Grey, is you start working these two right here. You start working these because you know that they have pain, they have motivation. And if you position your cards right, if you can actually help these people, they will end up dropping their wants and going after and accepting only their needs. And whenever they accept their needs, you actually make money. All right. This is when you actually have a spread. Cool. So hopefully you're getting that right. There's another chart. I think it's 5 stages of grief, but we all go through this. You know, it's a lot of denial, why and me, all this other stuff. You know, like nowadays we might call that victim mentality, but in reality, it's because we feel bad. It's because we have regret. All right, it's not really victim mentality until like you never accept responsibility, you never get it solved. Instead, it's just we feel bad, something happened, we wish we would have done something different, we made mistakes, and that's okay. Our job as real estate investors, again, is to come in, create a win-win-win situation, and that way they can get back up on their feet, and then obviously you win, they win, etc., and move forward. 50 Shades of Grey with foreclosures, the 3-day follow-ups, they're notorious for not even knowing that they have an auction date in 1 week. Like, I can't tell you how many phone calls we have where, you know, like, hey, I'm calling because, you know, you got an auction date, and talk with them. They're like, I have no clue. Like, oh my gosh. And a lot of these people, again, not responsible. Right. And it's our job to come in and help them with that. Like, you can stop the foreclosure. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but you're solving their problems. All right. Pull this dude back up. All right. So that's the 50 Shades of Grey. Now, when we're moving into stage four is where the money's made. All right. Anytime you have identified motivation and pain, your next step is to get a offer out the door. Stage four, lengthier process, but the short explanation of this is we broke it down into 3 phases. All right, you have phase 1, and this is property assessment and underwriting preparation. So, for instance, if you're working a foreclosure again, you might need to get their mortgage information, right? You might need to get authorization to release information. You might need to get their arrears, right, which is on their mortgage information. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you need to get. And I'm trying not to confuse anybody if you're not familiar with it, but either way, there's a process to that, and you can miss a lot of steps, and you can lose a lot of deals if you're not organized, and if you can't show up and do your job every day. right? So this is where we do that in phase one. Again, you can have your untouched new lead. Maybe you get affiliate lead from somebody. You get appointment books, quick and dirty, discovery, waiting documents, lead verified. All right, I know there's a lot, but again, in stage four, every deal goes through here. Now, I went through stage three all the way through stage four right now. And one thing I want you to understand is you can absolutely have somebody in stage one be the first time you talk with them and they go all the way to stage four. You can absolutely do that. Is that the norm? Absolutely not. That is not the norm. And because that's not the norm, you need to have operations like this. You need to have systems and processes that work and you can follow, and you don't have to wonder where to go and what to do next. If you don't have that, you need to get that. And that's what we provide in the Deal Boss Project. All right. This is everything I wish I would have had when I started, instead of going in the whole $60,000 for a bunch of videos that I had to watch that just exhausted me. All right. And at the end of the day, I had to come in here and like learn how to do everything anyway. And it was just super disappointing. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's what, that's what we're solving in the Deal Boss Project. All right. You come in, get the full operations, the systems, get your marketing dialed in, and all you have to focus on is sales. And sales is what I'm talking about today. All right. This is sales, but you got to have something backing this so you can focus on sales. All right. As funny as that sounds to me, hopefully it sounds funny to you too, but like it took me a long time to understand that. It did. I did a lot of SMS blasting where I blast out SMS and I would drop $2,000 on a blast, but I wouldn't have any processes. We would run direct mail. All right. I would drop 5K on direct mail campaign. It would go out. We would get a bunch of callbacks, right? We would get a bunch of return mailers and I wouldn't know what happened. And then I would miss out on a lot of opportunities because of time, right? Because if they're calling you, they're also calling the other mailers, and it's speed. Speed matters. Okay. So because of that, you got to have systems and operations. If you're, working your full-time job, all right, direct mail probably isn't a good idea for you because somebody needs to answer that phone, or you need to have a way to get to them pretty quick. Okay. Hopefully you understand that, because again, if they're calling you, they're probably calling other mailers. You're not going to be the only one to mail to them. Okay. That's for sure. So let's dive back into stage four. In phase one, we have this process that we call cash or trash. And the reason we develop cash or trash, it sits right here inside of quick and dirty. All right. And the reason we have cash or trash is because, have you ever comped a property in a rural area? Better yet, have you ever tried to train someone to comp a property in a rural area? How many deals, how many leads have you spent a lot of time on that there was really no money to be made? Or if there was money to be made, it cost you a lot of resources, way more resources than it was worth. Therefore, we have a process. Whenever a lead comes into our stage four operation, we rank it on a 1 to 5 system. And if it's below a 3, a 2, or a 1, we trash it. And we will, if we need to, we'll text the seller or call the seller and say, hey, we're not interested, or we'll trash it and literally just get rid of it, because like it's exhausting. All right. It really is. And you end up spending a lot of time on something that's not going to make you a lot of money, instead of spending your time on the deals that make you 20, 30, 40K, or add to your portfolio that's super nice, right? Like, again, if a deal is in the middle of nowhere or not in commuting distance, with a major area where people can actually afford to live there, afford to pay you what you need to be paid, then why are you spending time on it? All right, there's actually properties out there that you would literally be given and you would lose money on. All right, they're out there. All right, literally, like, paying the property taxes on it isn't worth it. There's markets where there is zero appreciation. All right, think Section 8. All right, this is like an aha moment that I had a couple of years ago, but I like Section 8. Like, I own Section 8. I own housing vouchers, properties, and the key with Section 8 is is most of the time they're in an area that doesn't appreciate in value to keep up with inflation. And because of that, you can own a Section 8 property for 10 years and it may only be worth like $10,000, $20,000 more versus buying a property that's in a good area that's appreciating in value. And now 10 or 20 years later, it's doubled in value, which is statistically what real estate does every 10 years, right? It doubles in value, but it doesn't do it in every market. You got to understand this. So therefore, even market analysis is extremely important so you can focus your time and effort where it needs to go. All right, you getting this? And I'll walk you through exactly how to do that. So we identify your top zip codes. We identify exactly where you need to focus, whether you're trying to build your portfolio, whether you're trying to get cash days, where you're trying to flip, etc. If you want to go direct seller, even direct to agent, we can do that. Let's jump back into phase two, because phase two is where the money's made. All right. So I mentioned this process right here, which is essentially cash or trash. After you evaluate the property, and even before, you can move pretty quick and get an offer out. Phase two is where the money's made. And the reason we have this is I can't tell you how many people, including myself, don't make enough offers. The name of the game, guys, is make offers. Now, there is a difference, though. You can make a bunch of bad offers, all right? And you'd be like, dude, I'm making 50, 100 offers a day. It's just like, dude, they all suck, right? You didn't make any good offers. Why did you make any good offers? Well, you didn't have a process that allows you to make consistent good offers. So my point with that is you need a system where you can look at your KPIs. And if you have a acquisitions manager whose job is to look at properties and make good offers, well, now you can track that. Now you can see exactly what they're doing. Maybe that's you and you need accountability. Either way, you need to do this. So every day you start with your inbox, you clean it out, you generate new conversations, you do your follow-ups, and you make offers, and then you clean out your inbox again. All right, that's it. That's your entire day. It's that simple. But you have to make offers. And, you know, we actually have in stage 3, 2, and 1, we actually have a blind offer system where we automate making offers, right? And it works really well to generate a lot of leads. However, those are only conversation starters because a good offer you can actually fulfill. If you cannot fulfill the offer, it is a bad offer. Okay, there you go. I gave you a definition. If you cannot fulfill the offer, it is a bad offer. All right, so you have to have a system and a process so you consistently create and make good offers daily. If you don't have that, you're falling behind, especially in today's world. It's all about speed. All right, let's move back and we're going to talk about phase 3. So once the offer is sent, all right, so now keep in mind, I just laid out a full-fledged operation for you. This is your entire sales process. And once you're here and you're making offers, your offers will most likely always be denied. Because your offers will always be denied, you have to have a process to follow up on your offers. LOI, if you're unfamiliar with that, means letter of intent. It's a commercial term that's mainly used in commercial properties, and essentially think of it as an offer. All right, an offer can absolutely be a verbal offer. It can absolutely be a text offer. It can absolutely be a written contract that gets sent out. However, the difference is it's something you can actually fulfill. It's not a conversation starter. It is something that if it is accepted, you will move forward. Well, if you're making offers like that, the seller's probably going to have questions and probably is going to say no more times than yes. And therefore, you need to have a stage where you're getting feedback, right? This is gold, guys. The way it works is you send out an offer, and one day that contact's going to automatically move to the next stage. Now, hopefully you're blessed and every offer you send out, you're on the phone with them. It works out perfectly. You say, hey, let's go check your email, or let's sign it right here in your iPhone. and they sign and move on. You go open up escrow. Hopefully that's your life, but most of the time it doesn't work out that way. Therefore, you need a follow-up process. All right. So you send the offer, you try to get them to sign and commit. And if you did your job correctly, most of the time they will. However, sometimes there's this gatekeeper that pops up, right? And they're like, something happened, right? I talked to my Aunt Susie, and Aunt Susie said I need to do this, and you can't overcome that objection. So because you cannot overcome that objection, you only have one option, and that's the follow-up, my friend. So we move it into LOI follow-up, and it's going to happen automatically one day. You're going to clean out that pipeline. That's part of your daily operation, right? So inbox, new offers and task, right? Generate new conversations, and then you're following up with those offers as well inside of that mix, cleaning out your inbox at the end of the day. So with that being said, as you do this, you're simply calling them saying, hey, what do you not like about my offer? Like you said you wanted it. We talked about this, what changed, etc. And you're moving that conversation down the pipeline. And when you do this every day, you'll have more and more contracts to actually get accepted. Now, keep in mind, this is acquisitions. This is your acquisitions manager role, your closer, right? In most cases, it'll probably be you starting out, but hopefully you get to scale up and plug somebody into that role. Right. So let's get back to the next step, because that is the follow-up process of offers being denied. So we got nurture and we got double nurture. What this means is double nurture. It means you're not directly talking to, and this is wrong. My team wrote this, and this is wrong. Double nurture means that you're not directly talking to the seller. You're actually talking to the real estate agent. So not in direct contact with seller. You're speaking with a gatekeeper, right? And most of the time that's going to be a real estate agent, right? Maybe it's a wholesaler or another investor, who knows? But either way, though, you're nurturing your double nurture again. Ideally, you want to get these two pipelines completely filled, and you're spending a lot of your time following up with those guys and nurturing those contacts that need a little bit more love. Cool. Then you got final agreement needed. We're getting it out. If you're not able to get the contract out right here and sign and all that other stuff, you can move on to final agreement needed. That's where essentially you're getting on the phone with them, opening up their email and explaining the offer to them. It is so important. I learned this the hard way. That is probably one of the most important sections in your close process there is. You have to be able to explain the offer, and you have to be able to explain your contracts. All right. Now we give you all the contracts and everything, is done for you. Click of a button, but you have to be able to explain it to them. So because of that, if you make the offer, you can absolutely move somebody all the way to final agreement needed, where you're getting on the phone with them, you're opening it up, reading the contract to them, etc., and then moving them back down the pipeline if you deem that to be necessary. All right, let's run back to dead offer follow up again. Offers denied. You already checked the box, and they're just not moving. All right, so you're going to have a dead offer follow up. So essentially, you lost the deal. There was no negotiation, whatever that is, and they're not top of your priority. So you move them to dead offer follow up because you did have them teed up. Time creates all problems and it solves all problems. So let time do its job, and you continue to follow up with that person. All right. Then you have contracted, open up escrow, go find your buyer. And then you have lost. Again, lost. A lot of times we use that because, you open up escrow, all these things, and then some type of black swan comes out and just kills the deal and crushes it. That is lost, but that doesn't mean you lost that deal forever. All right. There are sometimes you can revive those contracts, those deals, and get it moving again. Right. There's a bunch of stories on that, but anyway, you got to have that stage. Cool. So that is it, guys. I know this is a lot, but this is the sales process you've been missing. If you'd like to talk more about it, let me know. And if you're already a Deal Boss member, I appreciate you. I'm excited for the year we're about to have. Let me know your feedback on this. And with all of this stuff laid out, remember now you have a step-by-step process to follow without all the confusion. The next step is to understand that you have only discovered what to do tonight. You don't know it. Okay. So one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in teaching myself how to learn is we mistaken learning for only discovery a lot. So we can go to an event, we can go to, a course, whatever that is. And we're like, we're blown. We got all this stuff we want to execute and we want to do and all this other stuff. And then when you get started, you're like, oh my gosh, I have no clue what I am doing. And the reason is you only discovered it. So I never want to leave you with the expectations that you can go and execute this stuff right away, because that's a fallacy, that's false. Instead, what you have to do is actually go and learn the process. So you have to get this printout, right? Have the conversations. We'll have recordings of what a dreamer sounds like, etc. And then listen to them. And then when you go and actually operate in your business, now you're learning and executing at the same time. That's when you actually learn. All right, you learn by doing. Other than that, you're only discovering, and you have to understand that so you don't fall in your face whenever you get disappointed because it's not working out the way you expected. All right, so if you can do that for me, stay blessed by the best, and we will talk soon. Reach out if you have any questions. Don't forget to join the Deal Boss Project, dealbossproject.com.